Meanwhile, over at the Department of Education, we now know that more than 1,300 workers will be laid off in the coming weeks. How do we know that? Well, that according to an interview by the Education Secretary, who in essence stated in so many words that the Department of Education will soon be no more. Joining us to discuss this and so much more is Mr. Mark Powell, former San Diego County Board of Education Vice President and Professor of Education. Mark, good to see you, sir, and welcome to the show.
Good morning, Guy. How are you?
I'm doing good. It's a busy day right here in Washington, D.C., and I'm pretty sure you're still enjoying that California weather out there as well. Mark, let's jump into this. There are a lot of folks who are somewhat concerned with regard to what's going on at the Department of Education. In layman's terms, for folks that are saying, I'm trying to wrap my head around this, do tell, what's going on?
The Department of Education operates no schools. What they do is they provide funding for schools and kind of set the national standards for education. But we would not be having this discussion if our education system wasn't failing our students. When you have about half the students not being able to meet the minimum standards in math and language arts, there's a national problem. Our students now have to compete with students from other countries. We're a global world with jobs out there that can be outsourced to many different areas. We're competing with countries that have much longer school years than we have in here in the United States. We're roughly around 180-day school year. Other countries are in excess of 200 days. So our students are being left behind, and we look to the Department of Education to kind of help set those standards for the rest of the states.
And speaking of the states, we now know that President Trump, if he has it his way, education in essence would be run by each individual state. The pros and cons to that, if any.
The pros are local control. Many states, such as California, where I reside here in San Diego, it would be better for us to have more local controls. We have some mandates that are very strange. For example, all schools are regulated on when they should start because it's deemed that kids need more sleep, which is a mess for parents that have kids in multiple schools. Also, we have another 180-day school year, and our kids are being left behind. The one major thing that I think we have to look at is vocational education. Guy, I don't know if when you were in high school, when I was in high school, we had vocational education. We had classes such as auto shop, wood shop. We could learn to be an electrician or a welder. There is no more vocational education. So yes, you can go to college and you can get a degree, but that's going to cost you anywhere from $100,000 to $200,000. You get out of college with this massive student loan, and you owe the Department of Education that student loan. They're the ones who are giving out these student loans. So I think the schools at the state level need to determine what the needs are for the students in that state, not just a blanket policy nationwide.
Mr. Powell, you penned this article, if you will, in the Times of San Diego not too long ago. We're now taking a look at that full screen on your screen. In essence, you see it right there. California's education system in crisis. Reform can't wait. To this day, that's what you stand by, correct, sir?
Absolutely. Guy, I am looking at this in the lens of a former school board member, a former teacher, administrator, professor, but I also look at it as a parent. With two daughters that are in college right now, the amount of money they're spending on college is astronomical. Can you imagine a parent, a single parent with a child that has to send their kid to college, and they're going to leave with a $200,000 bill at the end of that? Well, they better get a degree that's going to be able to earn them that much money. Oftentimes, college is not the path for these kids. Maybe one of the trades or a vocation. Like I said, a welder, a plumber, an electrician. A nurse is also a good degree that you can get from college. So there are several options. Not everybody is on track for college, yet the school systems are tracking everybody to be college bound. So we need to really look at the way our education system is handling it. Plus, half of the students here aren't meeting the standards in language arts and math. So why don't we get back to the basics? We need to start teaching, reading, writing, and math skills. And let's get away from all of these other issues that may be important. But right now, we really need to focus on getting our students up and running so that they can compete in a global economy. The jobs that they're going to be competing for, the elementary school students are going to be competing for jobs that haven't even existed yet. 20 years ago, there were no jobs fixing an Apple iPad. That didn't exist because that didn't exist. So we have to look to the future. We have to work with businesses to determine what are those jobs that are going to be needed in the future, and have the education system and the business community work together. Have them work together to determine what do these kids need, what skills do they need to be productive in the future.
Mr. Mark Powell, former San Diego County Board of Education, Vice President and Professor of Education. Good to see you, Mr. Powell. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me, Guy. I appreciate
Enjoy that California weather. All right, guys, we'll take a quick break. Hey, on the flip side of that break, yet again, one of the big stories right here in the nation's capital, a possible $1 billion deficit for D.C. Councilmember Robert White joins us next, right here on the Live Zone.